Hey everyone, Dave here, and today's going to be all about strategic planning. We're going to talk about how you build a strategic plan that is effective not only for your top VPs and C-level positions, but also throughout the management and throughout the entire organization, and why this is so important. Now, let's begin with understanding this point. I don't care if you're a multi-billion dollar company or you're just $1 million company. The same principles apply. And one sheet is all you need. And if you try to do more than that, it can get so confusing that if you got to go look around to try and understand it, your people are not going to understand it. Now, if you're a huge company, you may have to do a one pager per division, but you get my point. The more complex you make the planning process, the more it has to be understood, which then makes it higher chances of being misunderstood. So what you want to do is simplify this process all the way through and have a one pager. And this one pager can easily be summarized. And let's talk about it because people go, you can't do it on one page. Yes, you can. You can do it on one page. And it's one page per. Your company strategy is one page. The VP strategy is one page. Below the VP, the director strategy is one page. The manager strategy is one page. You understand how it keeps going down. And the more simple you can make it, the better. Strategic planning is often misunderstood and either overcomplicated or not done at all. And it's amazing how if you do a bad job with this, how bad you do. And if you do a good job with this, how amazingly the results come through. And all of you guys now are successful because all you did is took the time to strategically think a little bit before your annual year or your fiscal year. Either one. And what's the purpose of an annual plan? It creates direction, it creates clarity, and it creates focus. Now, with those three things, you're almost unstoppable. And I'm telling you this, and I'm going to say it again. If your strategy doesn't fit on one page, who's going to cover it? Not your people, not the people below. And too many people are like, yes, yes, yes. And then they don't know what the hell they're supposed to do and try to make it up. And if it's made up, it isn't going to work. And you're like, how are we failing? We took all this time to plan. Well, that's your answer right there because people aren't really understanding what is behind this plan. Not everybody can think strategically, but they can understand the strategic reasons as to why something needs to be done and then create the initiatives, the actions in order to get it done. I mentioned earlier that strategic plans often just don't work. And that's because people are vague. They are not clear into what's expected, or it is such a long document. Who wants to read it? It's exciting to you because you might be a strategic, detailed savant, but not the rest of the organization. So simplicity always wins. And if you don't have it so it's understood all the way through all levels, not the right plan. And inevitably, this is what happens when it's not clear and simple. It's like the campfire game, when someone goes and starts something and it ends up being something else all the way around the campfire with people telling someone stuff. It's no different. When you have a bad plan, how it is interpreted all the way down the line varies greatly. What do you think happens if everything varies greatly? Your results don't get done. And if they result, then the results vary greatly. It's not a good place to be. That's why strategic planning is best simplified. Some of you may be going, why are you stuck on one page? Well, one page is so important because it is a powerful tool that clarifies and allows you to create direction and focus. Think about it. You can take one page and talk to any manager and go, help me understand why we're not achieving these goals. And it's the same page for everybody. Every one of them. And if you can do it in such a manner like that, the direction's now understood. And if the direction can be understood, then you can get there faster. And once that's understood, all things accelerate. And all of a sudden, in your first quarter, you're like, wow, what results? That's what you get from a one-page plan. If it can be simplified down to that. Look at this one pager, and some of you may be struggling with me even mentioning this, but look at it as a roadmap. A sales and operations roadmap. Of course, bring HR and accounting and engineering and all of the departments with you, but look at it as a roadmap that's driven by sales and operations. And if you look at it as a roadmap, you might start to see how simple things now can be said. So let's talk about how and what's included in a one page so I can break it down a little bit more for you. You just simply state your vision and purpose. What's your vision and purpose? Why you exist, your why, and where you're headed. Let me say that again. Your why and where you're headed as an organization. Your vision and purpose. List it. Make it clear. Make it concise. Make it easily understood. Then you just go to strategic priorities. What's your strategic priority? What are the main things within your organization that are going to have the biggest benefit? You know what they are. If you're working within your company and you're the leader of the company or a manager of a department, you know what the key things are. List them. List 3 to 5, no more than 5. No, can't go 10, can't go 6, can't go 7. 3's better, 5's most. Then based on that, you should list what your strategic initiatives are. So now you got your 3 to 5 big things you're going to work on. Now you got how you're going to obtain that, which is your strategic initiatives, your strategic actions. Below that is, how are you going to measure it? What measurements can you put in? You don't have a measurement? Come up with one and start measuring it. Once you have a measurement, then who owns it? Where does the accountability lie? It lies somewhere. Where does that accountability lie? And lastly, your timeline. And you should list out the timeline that by this date, to the first quarter, it should be here, second quarter, it should be here, third quarter, it should be here, and fourth quarter accomplished. That type of timeline. Doesn't have to take all 4 quarters. But as an example, that type of timeline is laid out and is specifically with results and the due dates as to where you should be according to the plan. That's it. That's all that needs to be included. Your vision, your purpose, together on top. The strategic initiatives, which basically are those 3 to 5 big things that are going to move your organization the most sales, most cost savings, most whatever. You're going to figure out how to put metrics to it and KPIs. You're going to tell everyone who's accountable for it, and you're going to have a timeline associated with it. All right, let's talk about each one so we're not confused. When you define your vision and purpose, it's going to seem like a very challenging task because we want to overthink this. What is your why? Write it down. Look at it again tomorrow and fix it. Really, that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be more than that. A clear vision is, why are you doing what you're doing? Why is your business a good business? Then your purpose is simply, why do you exist? Let me give you an example of a purpose for me that might help. To become a trusted source of business and leadership advice throughout a community of small to medium businesses. That's my purpose. I want to help businesses be able to perform better. That's my purpose. Yours can be something just like that. You want to be able to provide a certain widget at a lower price, higher quality, better lifespan, whatever it might be. That's your purpose. Okay. Your why is, why do you want to do it? And that's internal to you. Write it down, because now it's going to be in everybody. But what's your why? Why did you start the company? Why are you the president of the company? What made you become president of the company? What made you become CEO? Why are you the major shareholder? These are all questions that should help define your why. Now, when you go to identify the next part of the 3 to 5 key initiatives, you want to be looking like 12 to 24 months out. When you're thinking of these things, your timeline is going to be 12 months, but you want to be thinking 12 to 24, thinking of what are the things I can move or that I need to move to make the greatest impact on the organization. These are major things These are not tasks. These are not, I am going to do this every Tuesday. No. These are major things. This is not, I am going to grow this section of my business by 5%. No. This is things like my entire business is going to grow by 15%. I am going to expand into 2 regional markets. That expansion is going to make me be able to grow my business by $5 million. Big picture, I am going to reduce production costs and find operational savings of 15% so I can gain margin. Big picture, I need to develop a leadership pipeline to make my organization stronger. See how all those are very big picture? Those are key initiatives. If you're down into the nitty gritty and trying to say things that are not huge, encompassing things like just increase sales, you're in the nitty gritty. And that's not where this is. This is big picture. I don't know if you're confused right now, look at it this way. And you got to ask yourself a question. If we nailed 3 initiatives and we just nailed them, we just achieved them, what would my business look like today and how awesome would it be? And if it's a major change, those are your 3 initiatives you want. If you can think of bigger ones, you might be questioning why you didn't pick the bigger one. It's as simple as it. And then that leads you right to, now you have, let's just call them 3 initiatives. You can have 5, but let's go to 3. And you have your 3 initiatives. Now below them, you start to want to put your actions. All right. Your actual actions of what you're going to do. And think of it departmentally, divisionally, whatever helps your mind as to what's the action that has to happen. For instance, you may say, I need operational cost down 15%. You may say that this part of operations has to contribute 5%. This part of operations has to do 7%. And then you're going to find the rest through material cost savings with purchasing. So you understand, you're not saying this is the exact thing you're doing, but you're saying these are the departments and this is now what and who is going to do it. That's your initiative. Once you set that initiative, then it's the detail. It's the detail below that. I'm going to decrease operational costs by 5%, and I'm going to do this by this line and this line increasing its output. I'm going to get more through that machine, thus reducing my cost. Make sense? Another way is maybe you ship stuff. You're going to get more shipped per hour, reducing your cost. You get it? So there's 2 parts to this. The bigger part, that where's it belong? Let's just call it what department. That's probably the easiest way to describe it, even though it's not great way to describe it. The second part is what actual action needs to happen to get there. Now, your people should be involved in that, not just you dictating it, but that's a different presentation. And remember, everything, every action is measurable and has a timeline. If they don't have those 2 things, they're nothing. It's called a wish list. Oh, I forgot. And it's owned by someone. Someone has accountability for it. That's important. People get lost in accountability because then they say, hey, if the CEO, he's accountable or she's accountable for everything. Yes. But they should be holding you accountable, your VP, and then your VP should be holding a certain person accountable. Who owns it at what level? That's what's important here. The ownership, the metric, and the timeline. When it comes to metrics and you don't have any, or the other part that happens, if you don't have any, then the other ones you have some, but then you accomplish some, but your bottom line still looks the same. All right, you got to come up with measurements that mean something. And if you don't have them, you got to develop what that measurement is. And you can do it and start with your best guess until the measurements come in and tell you what they actually are. You're better off just starting and doing than you are just waiting for a perfect measurement. But you want a measurement on there. And how do you come up with a measurement? Quite simply, what does success look like? If you know right now, let's just use an easy manufacturing one, that per hour you are getting out 5 widgets. You now want to get out 8 widgets. So how do you measure that? Right. You just come up with a measurement. Currently, you know that you are selling $100,000 a month and you want to sell 110. You measure that. And a secret here is there's been a bit of a trend of like a team ownership of something. Don't ever do that. Never, ever, ever. One person owns it. One person owns it. A team thing creates chaos when it comes to ownership. A team thing trying to solve something is an amazing thing when you have one person moving the direction. If you have all these A-type personalities, things will go nowhere. And if you have all of these, the feeling personalities, things will go nowhere. What you need is one person that's accountable for it, that is pushing the direction. And you make it clear to the team that this one person makes the decision. And it's up to that person to have leadership skills to include everybody. Because that team, the team's involvement is crucial. So I'm not saying what people want to say is I'm not saying teams are important. They're vitally crucial. You just can't have a team responsible for something. One person, no shared responsibility. Establishing timelines is the next part. And that one creates a little bit of a challenge because people are scared when you're first starting out. And what my advice simply is it's going to take you 3-4 months to get all your crap together to start initiating it. So really make sure your second, third, and fourth quarter where your results are starting to come in. And don't think that the results come in right away. And if they do, you're ahead of schedule. It's awesome. Good for you. But if it's a major thing and you just started this goal, you want to be able to make sure that you have time to do the planning and create the actions to get the result. Because you might have to have some Kaizen events, some improvement events, something along those lines, and however you're doing improvement or cost or efficiency or operational management, or sales management, any of that. So that timeline really comes down to just create it in a sensible manner and don't put everything front loaded, back loaded. But don't be so back loaded that all of a sudden you can't catch up. Meaning that in that second or third quarter, if you're not at 60% of that goal, you're not going to make that goal. You should be probably 60 to 70% there. You're not going to make that goal. So you don't want to overload it in such a way that your fourth quarter has everything in it, because then you might not hit a darn thing. The reason these timelines exist is for the person whoever is managing this project, your own success. You want to be able to measure yourself to see how well it's going. And if you're not there, you're doing something wrong because the benefits aren't showing up. Doesn't mean you haven't improved things. It's just the benefits are not showing up. So you got to figure out how to do something differently in order to get the benefit to hit the goal. That's why timelines are so important, and the single action owner is so important. And at whatever level you're managing this at, whether it's a C-level, a VP, a director, a manager, or a lead, check in monthly, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever makes sense. And I think weekly makes sense as you're a lead, a manager, director. And I think when you get to VP, it should be monthly. And when you're at like a C-level position, quarterly. You might have to do it more in the beginning if things aren't going well and you have to give some advice. But overall, once that plan gets going, that should be how it works. The more you're not in the day-to-day and you're giving the autonomy to the people because it's clear you took the time to do it right, the better your organization is just going to maneuver. And the next part is really moving on, because we talked about the strategic plan. The strategic plan and all the pieces are right there for you. Now it's, well, how do you bring it to light? How do you make sure people understand it? And I would, as whoever's rolling this out, as the president, the CEO, whoever, and that should be basically to all the managers, and it should be explained, and any question's a good question, and take it and answer it. And you just take your time to present that one pager to everybody, because if you did it right, they're all going to understand it. And then each one pager, then telling them that each one of them is going to have a meeting with your appropriate managers in order to expand their own one-page document that feeds this one. One-page documents only. Don't bury it. Keep it visual. Maybe just keep it on a board in front of your office. Keep it visual. That works. And then keep the updates as to how you're doing quarterly visual on that one-page document. If you're sucking, don't hide that. They basically say, we're sucking, we're doing something wrong. How do we fix this? If you took the time to build this one page right, use it. So many people create a plan and don't use it again and just throw it in a drawer. Oh, great. Good job. No. What you want to do is use this document to make decisions. And what you learn from that is, 1, how to make good decisions to hit your goals. 2 is, did you really do a good job in a one-page strategic plan? Because you might be going, that's a bad goal. What have I learned? And this is good for you as a leader going, all right, admitting that's a bad goal. Let's switch it now so that we can start going towards it. And this is our new goal. Yes, it's a do-over, but it's better going after a goal that wasn't very good, even though you thought it was. And as I said earlier, share it, present it to everybody, explain the meanings behind it and why it's important. Remember this. If you don't set the direction and you don't set the tone and explanations, other people will. And then you have no idea where things are going. That's where chaos comes from. And chaos loves to win. So just in short, when you do a one-page strategic document, no matter what size it comes, you're going to get better accountability, better direction. Your teams are going to be aligned. You're going to execute faster than you ever have, and that leads to winning. Yes, it does. That's it. That's all we got. And right now, I'm just going to put up a little strategic plan, how simple it can be. I'm going to put one as I'm talking and ending so you can see it, look at it. And it'd be right here for you. But that's it. That's as simple as it needs to be. And it can be more simple. It can be a little more complex, but one page. And don't do like 8-point. Let's keep 10 minimum. One page, understandable, clear direction. That's it. All right. Talk to y'all later.